Good morning, this is Viki.
And this is Jo.
And we're the Two Natural Ladies.
And we talk about the good news we all need and ways of getting the most out of life.
We help people with practical, uplifting ways we can all make a difference.
And we're striving for better, not perfect.
And we love a good laugh. Please enjoy the show.
And you're with the Two Natural Ladies. And I believe we have Brian Baker on the line.
You do.
Hello, Brian.
Hi, Brian.
Good morning, ladies.
Good morning. Everything's going well here. How about there?
Oh, very nice. Beautiful morning. Beautiful morning in the Dandenongs.
Lovely. So I'll just do a bit of an intro. I met Brian through our networking organisation quite a few years ago now, and we then caught up recently. He gave me a call and he told me what he was doing. I thought it was very interesting and a bit in line with what we've just been talking about.
Yes.
And he's also a well-known, well-established musician. So we thought we'd have you on, Brian. Thank you for joining us.
Yes,
Oh,
welcome.
it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you, Jo. Thanks, Viki. It's a pleasure to be here.
So tell us about recording and releasing music through COVID.
Well, everybody's pretty much, as we've all been in Melbourne, that very strict lockdown. We've all been stuck in our, homes and recording studios, basically. So, I just continued on. I'm very fortunate to have a really good recording setup here. I couldn't have anybody else in the studio. That was the biggest problem. But I found that we just use the internet. I send files across to various people. On the last few tracks, I've been using a fantastic drummer called Kane Watts, a very talented young drummer that I met who lives, he lives at Oakley.
Oh,
and
wow.
But I just send him files and he sends me back drum parts. We have discussions over the phone. I also use another drummer, Michael Barker in Rotorua in New Zealand. Michael's an old friend of mine from the Makers, from when we were recording together then. He's played with Neil Finn and John Butler Trio, and he's done a whole lot since we worked together. But it's great. Same deal, really. I just pick up the phone and we talk about the track and send him across the files, and he does his thing and sends them back, and I mix them.
How cool is that?
So I know you've told me, Brian, but who have you played with? Like, what were the bands that you've been in?
The big sort of connection really is Split Enz and Crowded House, because I work with Eddie Rayner. Eddie was the keyboard player in Split Enz, and then we worked together. After he finished with Split Enz, he was playing quite a bit with Crowded House, but he wanted to do his own thing, and in fact, he got a movie score to do. He'd produced a track for me already by that stage. This was back in the late 80s, and he wanted me to help him out with the movie score. So he and I did the movie score, and then went on to form a band called the Makers, and we got a deal through Warner's and did a whole lot of stuff. We toured with the B-52s and, did all the things, Hey Hey It's Saturday and Countdown and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
And you've got a new single coming out, Let Me Be My Crazy. I love that title.
Well, I think we've all got to have permission to...
Yes. I think we can relate. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Permission to say, look, this is the way that I am, okay? It might be slightly eccentric, but it's okay.
Yeah, I love it. So that's actually come out because it's past November the 13th. So that's very cool.
It has come out. Look, it's been out for a couple of weeks, and it seems to be doing very well. These days, and I know not everybody in the music industry agrees with me, but from my observation, these days, pretty much a lot of the music industry is centered around Spotify. They say, the stats that I've looked at, that basically 60 to 80% of the music industry is now in streaming, not in CD sales or anything else.
So you're on Spotify?
Making a strong comeback. Yeah. So Spotify is kind of where it's at.
Okay, cool.
And really, that's that's kind of the place to be. So I just am promoting it, and I have an agency in the States that's working with me to do that, and we're out working the track at the moment, and the Spotify numbers seem to be growing, which is great.
So you can get out now and do some performing, yeah?
Yes, but I won't be, unfortunately, at this stage.
Because
I'm
You're
sitting
leaving
here
us.
I'm sitting here in my house, surrounded by boxes and guitar cases and leaves and keyboards leaning up against walls. Because that's right. Because I'm packing up to go to New Zealand. I'm actually moving back home.
Oh, so that's home. So I was going to ask, do we smell or something? But it's actually because you're going home. That's okay then.
No. I've done so much here in Australia, and I'm so grateful. I've been here for 40 years.
Wow.
And it's just been absolutely wonderful. But no, it just feels that it's the right time for me to go home. My daughter is having her first child, so I'll be a grandfather. And there's another whole chunk of my life beckoning.
Well, how gorgeous.
Yes.
And I love, love, love. You're looking at an off-grid recording studio, permaculture, tiny houses, shipping containers.
Correct.
Please tell us all of this. I'm so excited.
Well, it's really about that urge to it's about the vibe of actually doing what you believe in.
Yeah.
And so I've got the opportunity to give this a really good shot. So so the idea is that I go across. I've been looking at buying a property in the north of the North Island. That's my stomping ground. That's where I come from. It's where my family comes from. And in fact, my brother is in Kaiko. You guys have just been talking about olives. He is actually an olive grower.
Wow.
He has evergreen olive oils. You can look him up on the net and Facebook, and he's doing well with his olive farm. He's also doing avocados.
Oh, wow.
I'll have to go visit there.
Definitely.
Yeah, that's right. So it's really all that kind of stuff is going to work for me because I'll go up there and buy some land and be with my family and get lots of support and then use the resources that I've built up to try and set up this permaculture farm and off-grid recording studio. I think with the way solar is and batteries, it's very doable now. Very doable, and I'll give it a crack.
And the tiny house bit, tell me all about that, or us about that.
Well, it's, we're all fascinated by the tiny house.
Yes.
We watch Bryce on Living Big in a Tiny House on YouTube all the time. We all like Bryce and watch him wander around New Zealand and the rest of the world doing his tiny house thing. Well, we've already checked a few people. There's a brilliant guy called Marcel who does Love Shack tiny houses. He's just out of Whangarei, and been and visited him and had a few chats with him. There just seems to be so much force in that movement and energy. So there's lots of really good options. What I've actually choosing to do myself, I've got a couple of options. The first thing I'm going to do is actually go and see a guy who makes yurts in Whangarei.
Yes.
Yurts are very interesting and apparently they make really good recording studios.
Oh, yeah, I'd like to stay in a yurt, so I'll have to come over and stay in your yurt if you're there.
Well, they're apparently not very expensive or time-consuming to put up. You have to build a platform first, but then the rest of it is reasonably straightforward. So the yurts are a really interesting option. That's where I'm going to start, but my final choice and the way that I want to go with this, with my bit of land anyway, is modular container housing. And the idea from that came from a time when I lived in Bryagalong in Gippsland for a while, and a mate's house there, I was just absolutely intrigued and just fell in love with it. She had a circular main building, and that had a lounge room and a kitchen in. So you'd do all your hanging out in that, but then there was a little covered pathway, and that would go off to a separate building, a small building, a similar size to a container, which would have a bedroom and a bathroom in.
Oh,
and
wow.
then little paths to other ones. So you just pop them up as you need them, really.
Oh, love that.
Yes.
So easy.
It's a really cool idea.
Yes.
It's it's modular. You can start with one, and then once you've done that, you can just replicate it. Each bedroom has its own bathroom. Of course, you've got your compost toilet and the whole business.
And then of course we go outside, and you're talking. You've just done a permaculture course, right?
Yes, I've been doing a permaculture course with Milkwood.
Which is David
Holmgren. Yeah.
Yes, and we've spoken to somebody who lives on the property with David, Charlie from Formidable Vegetable.
And we were just playing his song.
His music is all over this course. So
yeah.
It's really good. Yeah.
Well, we just played
Grow a Garden.
Grow a Garden, yeah.
Grow a Garden, beautiful. Yeah, well, all this whole movement and whole thought is extraordinarily important to our philosophy, I think, and to kind of greeting this new world. I mean, COVID's bringing it closer, but the whole thing is coming closer. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I feel like I want to apologise to the earth for every bit of damn plastic that I still put in the garbage.
Yes, yeah.
And it's just unavoidable. We're trapped in this thing. I mean, as much as we want to, we still go. Our food is generally in the supermarket, wrapped in plastic.
One of the good things that's happening is that we're talking more and more about it, and therefore it's becoming more and more, in our thoughts. But also there's more and more people finding ways to reuse the plastic. And I know the person we've actually got on after you is a lady talking about circular economy, and part of that is using what we are producing. So if we're producing this plastic, how can we then reuse it? And like all the soft plastic, I keep it and then I take it to Coles, which hopefully it's then going to get recycled. So, the whole idea would be that while we've got plastic, and I don't know if we'd ever be able to get rid of plastic, but at least let's reuse it.
Yeah, absolutely. Gee, and the whole thing of the circular economy, that is utterly brilliant. I actually heard a lady talking in Parliament about that the other day.
Wow.
And I think it goes to that really creeps in everywhere, and it's an utterly brilliant concept. I mean, even the particularly water use, and that how much water we just waste.
Yeah.
So your aim is to create a regenerating native forest? Is that what you're planning to do?
It's going to depend on the piece of land that I get. Doing it. I'm in Melbourne and I'm looking at land in the North Island of New Zealand. I can't say that I'm 100% going to be doing that, because it's, as I say, it's going to depend on the land. But definitely, that is the plan. And some of the bits of land that I've looked at are going to work for that beautifully. And as far as I can see, there are grants for regenerating native forest in New Zealand, and probably here too.
That's wonderful.
Probably here too, but it depends on exactly how much land and how it's situated, and that's where the permaculture thing comes in, because of course you need to sort of observe the land and be with it and try and find out what it needs, because the philosophy that I'm trying to embrace and move forward here is that I've got to serve the land. The land isn't there to serve me. I've got to serve the land, and if I can work with the land and serve it, then it will sustain me.
I love this change of thinking. Like all of what we're talking about is just a shift in thinking that can make a huge difference.
And one of the things that we were talking about just before we had you on was we were talking about not pulling out the weeds when you're gardening, because they actually help keep the soil nutritious and everything. And the old way of thinking was your garden had to look pretty in inverted commas and neat in inverted commas, and therefore having the weeds and everything, that's not neat. And so we're changing the way we're thinking. Maybe let me be my own crazy. What is it? Let me be my crazy.
Let me be my crazy. Yeah,
it's also about the garden, crazy garden.
It is about the garden. That's right. Fukuoka is a very interesting. He's a Japanese guy that really was at the start of permaculture, and he has written a few books. The One Straw Revolution is a brilliant book by Fukuoka. Fukuoka. Really, really interesting stuff about exactly what you're talking about. And he says, he grows his vegetables in between his fruit bearing trees in his orchard, and he set up the whole idea of just wildly sowing the seeds and making seed balls, wrapping them up in soil and clay.
Well, and then
really interesting idea.
The other thing is my compost is often self-sowing all sorts of interesting things. Had a whole crop of tomatoes and zucchini.
It's alive.
Yeah. So it's all wonderful, and that also ties in with your being vegan and connecting with nature. Yeah.
It does. I've probably kicked off now. I've been vegan now for 10 years. And, in some ways, this stuff kicked off then. But that's what I meant when I actually started the conversation, when I said about acting on the thoughts, on the philosophies that we have. I think, for me, I got to a certain age and went, all these things I believe, I should probably start acting on them.
And see where that journey goes.
That's right, and then just take the adventure. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And it's also, it's actually an integrity too, isn't it? Because you're actually living as you speak, as you speak and feel you want to live, you're going to live. You are living, and I think that's one of the things that I'm noticing for myself is the out of integrity right at this moment for me in how I feel and what I want and where I am, and just keep moving forward closer and closer to that.
Yeah.
That's just great. Yeah. I'm definitely going to visit you and I know Viki's got family in New Zealand, and I've got family about to move to New Zealand, so we'll be over.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, yes, that's right. I mean, but just what you were saying before, actions reflect our philosophy.
Yes.
When our actions, are in tune with our philosophy, it's a good thing. Getting over to New Zealand, though, is a pretty interesting thing, so good luck to your family.
Okay. Well, they're talking about in about 6 months, so hopefully it'll be less interesting.
Maybe, that's right. Maybe things will have eased up a bit by then. Who knows? I mean, we live in very strange times.
We do, yes. Well, hopefully you get there.
Oh, yeah, hopefully I do.
Now, Brian, we have to go, but we want to ask you about the song we're about to play, which is In Our Backyard, which is one of your songs. Tell us about this. Well,
it's a song actually that I wrote when my son, who was now 16 going on 17, I wrote it when he was about 3 or 4 years old.
Wow.
And I really did mean it literally to be about in our backyard, that, looking through his eyes, that the whole world is in our backyard for him, for a child, and then wanted to make that metaphor larger for us, that the stuff that is under our nose, that is literally in our backyard, is important and needs to be paid attention to. So the track is developed. I've recorded it several times in several different ways, but probably the one that you're going to play now has Eddie Rayner on Split Enz on piano in the introduction.
Yes, it does.
I was fooling around with it on piano and thought that'd be great to have a piano introduction on this song now. And I started playing it, and then I thought, I should probably have a real piano player play this.
Not a pretend one.
I wonder who I could get. So I chucked it over to Ed, and he was very, very, very nice to contribute that to the track. Once again, over the internet, because he's in Auckland in New Zealand. And then he also did the piano solo in the middle of it as well. So, and that's with Kane Watts on drums. So Eddie Rayner on keyboards, Kane Watts on drums, and then I did all the rest. And that track's also done very well. And and doing well. That's got some legs yet.
And this was, you recorded it all through COVID?
Yes, that's correct.
Brilliant.
Well, thank you so much, Brian. It has been an absolute pleasure, and we will have to get back in touch with you and find out about your journey
and how we get there.
Yes.
Yes.
So have a wonderful day,
worries,
and thank you again for your time.
It's great talking to you both. Thank you, Viki.
Thanks, Brian.
Thanks for gearing it all up, and good luck with the show. And I think you're doing great.
Thank you,
Brian.
Thanks.
You've been listening to the Two Natural Ladies podcast. Visit twonaturalladies.com.au for more information. Thanks for joining us.